Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today I'm going to be doing a video on 8 things that anybody who's interested in dealing coins should know. They're going to be in the form of a longer form conversation with Chris Tisdale. I'll introduce him in a second, but basically we're going to be covering just different things. They're critical pieces of information, but about different kind of facets of coin dealing that you should know about. So let's head over there. Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today we've got Chris Tisdale from CoinTable. As always, he's got lots of great knowledge to share from us, coming from a perspective of a very successful coin dealer himself. And we're going to be discussing 8 ways or 8 tips to become a successful coin dealer, how you can start from scratch and pretty much get into it and have a successful time. So, anyways, glad to have you on, Chris.
Glad to be here. As always, thanks, Christian.
And yeah, we'll get into it with tip number 1.
The first tip is going to be a broad tip, so you've got to kind of narrow it down, but it's pick your lane, find your niche. You guys are going to want to specifically focus on something, whether that's, I'll just give you a couple examples. Maybe you're a peace dollar guy. Maybe you're a Morgan dollar guy. You might be the Kennedy and Franklin half dollars guy like myself. You might be nickels or all about the dimes. There's a lot of, I would say, wheat cents are super popular. So just find something and basically focus there, start there. As you become more knowledgeable and it's less overwhelming, you can expand your range of knowledge, but start out with one spot and just dive deep. Go deep instead of narrow.
Now, I know from talking to you in the past that you have pretty much made it using just kind of 50s to 70s half dollars, but obviously a lot of people branch out way further than that. You've been doing it for a long time. Is there any kind of time frame? Like, is it possible for somebody to deal in pretty much everything, or does that not really happen?
No, it happens. It definitely happens. I would say a lot of shop owners deal in pretty much everything because they have to. They have all sorts of everything walking through the store. I mean, with the shop, anything could walk in at any given time, and so you've got to be prepared for that. Which the internet makes that nice. And so I would say that I specialize in 50 to 70 proofs, half dollars and fractionals and whatnot. There's a handful of factors that went into that decision, kind of. I also, but with that said, I've done a ton with early walking liberties. I love Morgan dollars. I love proof Morgan dollars. Foreign coins are becoming very interesting to me. Toned coins are super interesting. Any proof like business strike. So I've ventured out of that. That's just where I'm absolute. Like, I feel like there's nobody that knows it as good as myself.
So the second tip that we have is developing your eye. That's something that's super important. And Chris has talked a lot about that in the past. So could you just explain kind of what that concept generally means and how it happens, how you develop your eye?
Absolutely, Christian. You guys, developing your eye has got to be one of the absolute most important things, whether you're going to be a collector or anywhere from just a hobbyist collector, a serious collector, a part-time coin dealer, a coin dealer to make a little extra money through college, or a full-time make your living dealing coins. Developing your eye is absolutely key. The reason that you are, the only way to develop your eye is to look at coins, and I mean a lot of coins. I'm talking, you've heard the phrase 10,000 hours. Go for it, because that is the only way to do it, is to look at coins. There are a few ways that I personally did it. Number one, I was coin roll hunting, and my eye was developing kind of along the way before I even realized what was happening. So coin roll hunting is a great way to develop your eye without a lot of expenses out of pocket. Go to coin shops. It might take a little bit of time, but you will eventually be able to, we're going to circle back on this one, but you'll eventually be able to build a relationship with some coin dealers. And the goal there is to get some coin dealers who are going to be okay with letting you just look at coins all day. In my case, there was a shop right down the street, and I would walk in and he would literally put his junk silver bin right on the counter for me, and I spent hours in there. I had a loop at that point, and I spent hours in there looking at coins, and I was looking for all sorts of stuff, and I found a lot of cool stuff too. Just because it's junk silver doesn't mean it's not uncirculated. So looking at coins, going through and just, over and over and over and over again, developing and training your eye.
Definitely. And that I think kind of goes well into our third point, which is generally just learning about coins. Obviously, there's a lot of that kind of by doing. And I think that pretty much learning by doing is the way to go, the gold standard. But are there any other ways that you've learned, whether that's being on forums, reading on articles from maybe well-known like publishing magazines, or maybe that's, informal YouTube videos that help you out? I'd say that a lot of what the videos that we're doing are trying to help people learn a lot more about it from a more experienced angle that you have. And that's pretty much all that your, all of your videos have that excellent perspective. But what would you tell somebody, if they know pretty much nothing? There's got to be a few good resources out there.
Yeah, the internet. I mean, we're all very fortunate to have the internet. I personally would not be where I am today without eBay. This is a relationship built business, but for the first several years, I struggled with imposter syndrome. That's where I kind of felt like I was faking it.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that in one of my YouTube videos. You might get some insights there, but for me, I was very hesitant in the first several years to just go out and start talking to coin dealers and building those personal relationships. And so I basically did it all online. So I was using eBay. eBay's a phenomenal resource. There's all sorts of, platforms, and you've just got to find the one that works for you based on your lane. And part of the reason that looking at coins comes before learning about them is because you pick your niche, you find your lane, you look at those coins, and the more you look at them, the more you are going to be able to pick up on double-dyed obverses, varieties. I cannot overstate this enough. Varieties is like, it's imagine yourself out there walking along and just finding money on the ground. That's all you're doing. You're finding free money. If you already have it in your possession and you're looking at it and you find out it's a variety, it's free money. And I've had tons of success with those varieties. And so as you are looking at coins, developing your eye, you're going to enhance your knowledge base by learning about the coins that you're looking at. And what I noticed for me is if I found something that looked kind of funky, I wasn't sure. So I would go and I would Google it, and I'd go to ngccoins.com and I would just find out if this is a known variety. Is it even a variety at all? And it would just kind of be a segue into me learning more about that particular coin that I thought or think I had found, or maybe did find, or whatever. And so, in terms of the other part of your question, I would say that if somebody is really serious about getting out there and making money being a coin dealer and they're starting out relatively new, two things. The Red Book has, I think it's like the first 30 pages. That's it. The United States Red Book, in the first 30 pages, it'll give you a very, very generalized breakdown of numismatics, and it's phenomenal. After that, it could go either way based on your opinion, but the first 30 pages of the Red Book, and then also How to Make Money in Coins Right Now by Scott A. Traverse. That's the best book that I have found, where he just does a great job of giving you a really big general picture of what's going on in the coin business. So
Awesome.
those are a couple of books, and then just the resources online. You guys don't take it for granted. Like, we are so blessed to have the internet and the resources that it just creates at our fingertips. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I guess one additional question that I just kind of thought of on the spot, we're definitely doing a long drawn out video on the process of grading coins, maybe multiple, so people can look forward to that. But this is just something I thought of. There's obviously a lot of detailed photos with PCGS and NGC imaging a lot of their coins. Is that a way that you can learn about differences in grades? Are the differences apparent on those coins, or is it really about looking at them in person?
It's really about looking at them in person first. After that, I think that, in fact, I can tell you my honest journey, I taught myself how to grade business strike Morgan dollars by going to ha.com, and I would literally just go to the auction archives, auction history, whatever they call it, finalized, whatever it was. It's been many years since I did that. And I would pull up the photos of Morgan dollars, and the grade's up at the top. So you just gotta, I wasn't looking at the grade. I'd look at the coin. I would say, oh, that's a MS64 or whatever. And then I'd look at the top to see if I was correct. And I just got better and better. So yeah, actually, Christian, that's a very, very good way. That's how I did it, is by looking at pictures of coins.
Sweet. Let's go to our next point.
Guys, the next tip is getting to know your local coin dealers. So this can include coin dealers who own shops. This can be the coin dealers who are maybe in neighboring states who come to your local coin shows that are in your area. I personally have found that, you know, the small 60, 70 table shows that are in my area several times a year, generally speaking, they have the same dealers and they're just in the neighboring states. And so for me, I noticed, I'm going to start with the coin shows. For me, I noticed it took the first couple of shows to go there, introduce myself, tell them who I am, you know, what I'm looking for. And some of those guys won't even want to, well, for me anyways, and it's been 10 years, we've seen a lot of progress, but some of those guys they didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want nothing to do with me because I was young and they just had never seen me before. I came out of nowhere. And so you want to build relationships with those guys. And for a lot of them, it is seeing your face, hearing your voice, and just taking the time, putting in the time to talk to those coin dealers. Now, as far as the coin shops go, I was very naive about that whole situation. I would walk into a coin shop and be like, "Hi, my name's Chris. Are you guys hiring?" And that's not the way to approach it. You know, these guys have to be very careful about who they hire. They have to be very careful about who they trust. And so be mindful of that when you walk into a coin shop. These guys are on defense mode almost constantly if they don't know you. And so for me, it just took time, you know, a year. It took a lot of time to just build relationships with these local coin shops. One of the best things I ever did was I took my son into the coin shops with me. The very first time I did it, it was like holy cow, like this guy all of a sudden is completely opening up to me. My son was 4 at the time. And, you know, one of the dealers gave him a token and then he's like, "Well, I like that baseball coin over there." And he gave him a baseball coin and it just changed. I think, you know, for them at the time, it was seeing that I had a family and that I don't know why it just lends credibility to the human factor, I guess. But
Definitely.
it changed everything when I took my son to the first coin shop. And then after that, I made it a point. We went to all the other ones in the Valley too. Hey, I brought my son with me this time. And it went miles. So if you don't have kids, find a cousin or a niece or a nephew. It's never a bad idea to get them started young in numismatics anyways. And then the other thing is I remember I had already been to Long Beach. That's the big coin show that I generally go to. I took my wife once with me and was astounded at the difference in just the way that these dealers open up, talk to you, treat you. And I don't know why, but it in my situation anyways, they were way less defensive. It was crazy the difference that made. So just building relationships with your local dealers and the dealers who come to your shows. It doesn't take long once they know who you are for them to know what you look for, what you like. And next thing you know, you're going to have dealers like, "Oh, hey, I brought you this," or, you know, "Hey, Chris, it's been a while since I saw you, but I set aside a bunch of stuff that I think you might like. It's in this box. Here you go. Tell me what you think." And that started happening fairly quickly. So it's a good thing. It's very critical to develop those relationships and build them.
Definitely. And I can kind of see that as well. I'll share a little bit about my story. I was the first customer at the Happy Coin, which is the shop that I now work at. So there was that element. And, you know, I was a little kid at the time, but my parents were in. So the owner also knew me more than just for, you know, being somebody who likes coins. And so that's when I eventually approached him maybe 2 or 3 years later after forming that relationship. That's when the good things can happen. So I was hired and that sort of thing. And I see it on my end with people that come in the shop, you know, people who take the time to be nice and polite and educated and interested, you know, especially once we know what people are interested in, there's definitely even customers who aren't even dealers, who will give better deals to and hold coins aside for. And, you know, we're super happy to do that. And it should really, I think that relationship over one where you're, you know, the buyer's trying to like shark the coin dealer or, you know, rip them off. I feel like it's pretty easy to tell when that's happening, and that's just not really going to go well. You shouldn't be going to coin dealers thinking that they're a way for you to make money, even if that's what you want to do. And they'll know, like when we sell some people coins who, you know, we know that they'll resell them. We're not trying to get every dollar, but just kind of having the right framework and the right state of mind from a friendship perspective, I think goes miles.
Absolutely. And I have found personally with myself, I didn't do it as much in the beginning because I didn't have the confidence, but I've straight up told guys like, "Look, I just want you to know, like, I'm paying this for all this. I'm going to, you know, you should probably consider grading this yourself. Or, this coin here is a certain variety, and, I'm happy to buy it for 30, but it's like a $300 coin. And, doing those types of things for dealers, it's educating them, and it just, that has paid off tenfold for me, doing those types of things. So I'll even go that far, take it as far as just letting them know, hey, you're leaving more money on the table than you think you are, or than I think you should. And they'll appreciate that a lot too. So I do that all the time.
I feel like that goes a long way. And even, building your credibility, people talk a lot to other people. The coin dealing world is somewhat big, but it's really not, like, especially at the larger end. So your reputation goes a long way, and having people who can stick up for you or vouch for you, or just, I was introduced to you by some of my other coin dealer friends, and, now we've got this great show. So, I mean, it's pretty easy. They were like, yeah, he's an awesome guy. You should go to him. That's, an example that we didn't plan to mention on the episode, but for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna, very short story. This was within the first 3 years. So I had just barely, I was maybe buying and selling on eBay for a year at this point. I bought a proof set from a very reputable coin dealer. His name's James Seago. He's very well known on the national level. I bought a 1964 proof set with accented hair. He knew it was an accented hair. I paid $40. I remember the specific details, and he sent it to me. Everything was good. 2 weeks later, I got another package from James, and I opened it up, and it's another 1964 accented hair proof set. But I didn't buy it. It was one of those deals where, on his end, when you're shipping 10, 20, 30, 100, however many packages that go out every day, he accidentally shipped me an accent hair proof set. And, I immediately got him on the phone and said, hi, James. My name's Chris Tisdale. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Bought a proof set from you a couple weeks back. You just sent me another one. It's out of nowhere. Do you want me to return it? I want to buy it, actually. So if it's not, like, if someone else hasn't bought it, then I'll just pay you for it. Otherwise, if someone's expecting it, I'll send it back. And that was he's like, oh man, that's awesome. Just send me $40. And so I did. I saw and met him in person after that at the Portland, Oregon money show. And there was a particular coin. We're going to talk about this in another episode, because this is like a very keystone moment for me. But it was a $16,000 coin. And I start looking at it, and James says, if you have someone for it, just take it. And if you end up selling it, great. Circle back to me on Monday, and we can work out the details. If you don't sell it, then just ship the coin back to me. He was literally willing to send me home with a $16,000 coin just because of a $40 proof set that told him I was an honest person. I cannot overstate how important that is in terms of building relationships with these guys and building trust. And the whole goal here is to have a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship with them. And that's how you do it.
Exactly. So for our sixth tip, I just want to go to you about this one, but you got to start buying and selling, actually start doing it. And there's probably going to be some wins. There's going to be some losses, but you just have to get out there and throw your hat in the ring. So what would you say about that?
What I would say is, we've talked about becoming an expert in your area. And if you do that and you've studied, excuse me, if you've done that, then, once you get to the point where you're comfortable buying and selling, you will be able to make decisions that almost have zero to no downside risk with possible upside risk. That's how I looked at it in the beginning, is I was buying things that I knew, okay, if worse came to worse, I could turn around and sell this for what I paid. But what I'll do is I'll buy it, and I will look through it. If there's something better in there, then, great. If not, I'll just turn around and sell it for what I paid. A good example would be, I bought a roll of proof quarters that a dealer had for sale at Melt. I'm always gonna be able to get Melt out of that proof roll of quarters. And at the same time, I now have 40 quarters that I can go and look through to see if there are any cameos, deep cameos, or whatever it might be. Anytime I found proof sets at Melt that had silver in them, and the dealers were just, back then it was fairly easy for me to find proof sets for Melt, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So I would buy them. I would look through them. I would set aside any that I thought were cameo or deep cameo. And then I would take the others and I'd list them on my local classifieds or eBay and sell them for the 25 or 28 that those other markets were bringing. I was constantly watching Great Collections and Heritage and eBay. And there were several times in the beginning where I just knew that a certain coin, like for example, an accent hair Kennedy in 67 cameo, at the time, I knew that coin was a $500, $600, $700 coin or whatever it was. And so, knowing that, I would see on an auction, like let's call it Great Collections, that one is coming up and I'm able to purchase that coin for 250 or 300. I do that, buy it from Great Collections, turn around and sell it on eBay. So start actually doing it. Some of the best advice I ever got was from a dealer. He said, if you're not losing money on a deal from time to time, you're not trying hard enough. And what that means is you've got to be willing to step a little outside of your comfort zone as you're going along. And with that is going to come losses. That's exactly the whole point, you guys. I said minimize the downside, but I didn't say eliminate it, because my biggest lessons, the things where I've learned the most, come from the deals where I've lost money on. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I just want to emphasize that you cannot put yourself in a position where taking a financial loss is going to ruin you. But you do want them every once in a while. That's how you learn. And the whole point is to learn, because as you learn, you grow and get better, and you find out what works. When you take a loss, you find out what didn't work. So you don't have to do that anymore, ever again. Just keep doing what works, and eventually you'll get the wheels going and moving it right along.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess the next tip, it's a very brief and quick one, but it is actually to not only buy and sell and like start getting after it, but knowing how to do that. So I think that there's other resources that we can talk about, but just having the accounts, doing a little bit of buying and selling on the different sites, Great Collections, Heritage, eBay, learning how to ship it properly, printing out the label. I think that, there's some total beginners out there. And I've found in the shop that people really appreciate very good packing. So, buying high quality things, really packing with a lot of cushion. There is potential that it breaks open, but my coin dealer always says, or, Chris, my boss, not you, a third Chris coin dealer, he always says that people feel like they're getting a special coin if the dealer has taken a lot of time to package it and make it special on his end, kind of. So that's just something that I'd mention.
Yep. Learning how and where. There are so many platforms out there. We don't have to dive too deep into this, just because, there's YouTube videos out there, and you can, heck, even if you don't even know what you're looking for, you can start an Instagram account and find the guys that are in the coin realm. And, so many of those guys are awesome dudes and are willing to help out if you've got questions. I answer those types of questions whenever someone sends me a DM at CoinTable. And the bottom line is, though, there's a million different resources as far as starting buying and selling. For me personally, I used eBay for the first several years almost exclusively, and that was a phenomenal resource for me. And in the last couple, as I've branched out and built more relationships, I've used it less and less. So that's what I love about coins. There's so many different flavors. There's one for everybody, no matter what you're trying to do. There's a lane for you and a place and a way to do it.
Absolutely. And then our closing tip, and this is definitely something that we'll do a full video on whenever that comes out, might be a little while, but, actually going to coin shows and doing well. I think we don't want to, unveil all the content, but if you would have one basic tip for people going to a coin show, what would that be?
The number one tip, if you're going to a coin show, is going to be focus on buying from the guys who don't specialize in what you're buying, and then sell to the guy who specializes in the item that you just bought or that you're buying or whatever. One of the most clever things I've ever seen is a younger kid who, his mom, I don't know how old he was, but his mom had to drop him off. So that tells you he was pretty young. He was just running around like a crazy madman at a coin show. And he had made like $1,500 or $2,000 that day by going to certain coin dealers and asking them, what are you looking for? What do you need right now? And they would tell him. And so he'd go find it. And he was just making little margins, 25 here, 50 there, 200 there. He would go up to one coin dealer and say, hey, how much for this? I'll use a proof set because that's what I focus on. How much for this proof set? The guy says, 400. Well, can you do any better? He'll figure out what the lowest he can buy that for. And then he'll say, hey, do you mind if I go just right across the way and show it to Mike or Gary or Bob? And usually they'll say yes. And he just was hustling. And so if you see a coin dealer and he's got a table full of Morgan dollars and then a couple little items over there on the left, you know that he specializes in Morgans. You're probably not going to want to buy a Morgan from him if you're trying to make money. You're going to want to focus on what those other items are that he has. Buy that, because that's where he just had to buy it or did buy it because it walked through or came in and he just had an opportunity on it. But he's not really a specialist, and so he just knows that he paid 100 and he'll sell it for 120. And you might go find a specialist where they're willing to pay 200. Those are some numbers that I just throw out as an example. But the number one tip is to buy from the guy who does not specialize in what you're buying. Sell to the guy who absolutely does specialize in what you're selling.
That's super cool. And just another example of something I would have never thought of that. And that's why we've got you on the show with the expert advice. So anyways, thanks so much. 8 ways or tips to do well as a coin dealer, to start getting into it and then going from there and being a successful one. Thanks again for being here.
Christian, thank you. I just want to thank you because as I mentioned the very first time, in our first video, you're giving me that nudge that I needed, and my commitment to put 1 video on YouTube a week at least. I've been putting 2 up. There's going to be 2 up this week again. So yeah, man, you came along and gave me that nudge right when I needed it. So thank you. I appreciate it, my man.
Sweet. I was watching them and loved what I saw. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me or contact on treasuretown.yt.com, my website, my Facebook, Treasuretown, my Twitter, @treasuretown_YT, or my Instagram, @treasuretown_YT. Looking forward to seeing you on some of my other videos.